Today, you're going to learn how to make an Adobe XD plugin. Oh, and hey, I'd like to point out this video's awesome sponsor, Skillshare.com, which offers thousands of classes in design, coding, business, and more. You're about to watch my Adobe XD tutorial, but you could watch this full course on Adobe XD at Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is just $10 a month, but if you're the first 200 students to use my very exclusive link below in the description here on YouTube, then you get the first 2 months free. All right, so let's get started. Hello everyone, Gary Simon of Coursetro. So today we're going to take a look at creating plugins for Adobe XD, and they just released the ability to create plugins and also plugins themselves last month, along with a bunch of other awesome features such as auto animate. Again, to get to the actual plugins, if we go to plugins and we go to discover plugins, you'll see all the plugins that they have to offer right here. There's a lot of them that are being added all the time. I mean, it's just a ton. It's awesome. So you can be one of the people who actually has these plugins listed there if you wish. For us, I'm just going to use or create one just for personal use, and it's very, very simple. Let me show you what we'll be creating. As most of you know, when I start off designing here, those of you following the channel, and I have a type base layer, you know, this is my headline. I'm always going to, over here, Montserrat, my favorite font, and changing it automatically. Well, what if I wanted to get rid of that step and instead just use a plugin that'll change it for me, or any multiple amounts of, let's make this one different, Times New Roman. Well, all I have to do now with my custom plugin is run the shortcut, and let me show you the actual menu item over here. Quick Montserrat or Control-Alt-N. Bro, you got Montserrat. So I'm going to show you also trying to run it without selecting a text layer. Obviously it has very simple functionality, and it's a silly plugin, but it's just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to show you exactly how to create that. All right, so for today's question, which Adobe XD plugin do you use the most? All right, let me know in the comments. I'll let you know my answer in the first pinned comment. Make sure to subscribe, and let's get started. All right, so the first thing we'll do is we're just going to choose any artboard for this particular plugin. It doesn't matter. And we're not going to be designing anything, but first I'm going to show you in the menu. If we go all the way down to plugins and we go down to development, we'll see we have a few options here. We have reload plugins. We can have, which is a shortcut that we're going to be using frequently. To reload your plugins, it simply means that, you know, obviously during the process of creating plugins, you're testing a million times. You're going to need to reload it a million times. You don't have to reload Adobe XD for that. All you have to do is just hit Shift, Control, and R, and that will just automatically, very quickly, reload the plugins that are sitting in your development folder. And so we'll get to that in a second. So then there's a developer console. So if we click on that, anything that's going on in your plugins that you execute here in Adobe XD, it will output, you know, any errors along with any console logs or anything like that. All right, so I'm going to minimize that. Then also we have show develop folder. All right, now by default, if you've never created a plugin, this is going to be empty. I have one here called white space generator. But yeah, this is where you're going to want to start, obviously, creating the folder. That's the very first step. So Control Shift N for a new folder, and I'm just going to put in, let me think, we'll just call this the name Quick Montserrat. The name doesn't matter. It's not going to impact anything functionality wise, but obviously it makes sense to name it whatever the name of your plugin is. All right, so then inside of here, you have to add at least 2 files, and that is a manifest.json file, and that is, it provides you with the configuration options of your plugin, like the icon, the name, the description, and along with a few other things. It's not that scary. And then also the actual logic behind your script, and that will be called in the form of main.js. All right, so what I'm going to do is open up this folder here in Visual Studio Code, and we're going to go ahead and create that manifest.json file. All right, and inside of here, I'm going to paste in a manifest configuration that you will see. Now, if you go to the official Adobe XD platform plugin page, you'll see that we have a quick start section. And if you come down here, you'll see a manifest.json. All right, and this is the very basic boilerplate for your manifest.json. So you can see there's you put a URID here for an actual ID of your plugin, the name of your plugin, a version associated with it, a description, any icons that you have that are associated with it. There's a host section. You have to really worry about this right here. And then UI entry points. Here, you can see it says type menu, label. This is what actually shows up in the menu, the plugins menu. A command ID. This part's important as well, and we'll see how that comes into play. And then also a shortcut for you to execute the plugin or your users. So I'm going to paste in this, and this is the details of the plugin that it's going to create called Quick Montserrat. The description, convert all selected items to Montserrat. As you can see, it's referencing an icons array of objects here, which just has one simple object of images icon.png. That doesn't exist, and it will fail. And I'll let it fail just so you can see that and how that works, because I'm not going to create this icon.png just yet. And then also the labels, Quick Montserrat. I'm going to put 2. Just because I already have one there, and I don't want anything screwing up. The command ID is Quick Montserrat 2, and then to run it is Control-Alt-M. I'm going to make this Control-Alt-N, just so there's no conflicts with the previous plugin I created for creating this tutorial. All right, so I'm going to save that, and then next we're going to have our main.js file. All right, so this is where all of the logic essentially goes in your app. So there's also kind of like a boilerplate format for how this works. If we come back to here, we could see this tells you for the main.js, probably the most simple example is right here, and it's literally just 6 lines of code. Basically, at the very bottom, you have an exports, and you notice it says hello command, and it says say hello. This is the function that it's executing. And so this hello command here is in relation to the command ID. So you'll see how this works just shortly. All right, so based on what you need or the purposes of your plugin, you may need to require a few different functions from various areas of within Adobe XD, like scene graph, for instance. So for us, for instance, before I get ahead of myself, let's say, for instance, you wanted to create a rectangle or whatever, or how to create paths or draw lines or whatever. This right here is going to tell you exactly what you need to do in terms of that. There's also a samples GitHub area where there's tons of XD plugin samples that you can check out the coding from. So if you want to draw lines, you go to the main.js file, and there you go. It's going to show you how to draw lines essentially within your XD plugin. I'm not going to be creating anything. I'm simply going to be taking existing selections that a user has selected right before they run the plugin and do something with them, right? So in the context of my plugin, they select text items, and it's going to change them all to a different font family. All right, so for us, all we're going to require, we're going to say const commands equals require commands. All right, and then we'll say function, I'll call this quick surat, and we're going to pass in a selection. All right, and then at this point, we're just going to console log the selection. And this is based on the elements that are currently selected that the user currently has selected. So at the bottom, module.exports equals, we'll say commands, and this will be quick surat 2. All right, so this is in relation to this right there, the command ID. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to Adobe XD, if I can find it. And we'll get this out too. And real quickly, I'm going to take this, put it right here. That way we can see the output as well. And remember, what we can do to reload our plugins is go to Plugins and Development, Reload Plugins, or Control-Shift-R. All right, so we'll do that, Control-Shift-R. All right, so remember I said the icon path, or this is gonna fail if it doesn't have an icon? This is exactly what happens. So the plugin will not load. So what we'll do is go back, and we're gonna create an images folder. And inside of here, we'll create an icon.png. Yes, I know it's not an actual graphics file because there's nothing in it, but that doesn't matter. It just wants to be sure that it does exist. All right, so now what we'll do is Control-Shift and R. Make sure the window is selected. All right, so oh, so yeah, it says Quick Surah 2 is not defined. I think I screwed up here, so let me go back real quickly. Yes, right here you can see it's dimmed out because it's not being used. This has to be changed to Quick Surah 2. I was looking on my reference code and I forgot to update that. So we'll save that, go back, and get these windows both up. Control-Shift-R, and then it says Loading Plugin. All right, so there we go, great. All right, so remember, we console logged it when basically somebody has selected an object. All right, so this constitutes as an object right here, this simple rectangle. And we go here to plugins. We'll see Quick Surah 2 has been loaded. So if I click it, notice it just provides us with an empty object right here. To actually get the specific data, we have to go back, and we'll go back into our main, and we'll say .items. All right, because you can obviously select multiple items, so this comes back as an array of objects. So going back, remember we have to reload the plugin, so Control-Shift-R, and then we'll run the command, which is Control-Alt in the N. And there we go. We could see it right at the bottom. Hopefully my head is not overlapping too much of it. It's right here. So you can see it gives you properties. You can then take these properties and modify them. Let's say, for instance, you want to modify the width of a given selected element here. Well, all we could do is come back here, and we'll say, let's see here, we'll say selection items. We'll take the first selected item here from the array, or you could iterate through all of them if you wanted to, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then we'll say dot width equals, I don't know, 200. So once again, we'll go back, and we will Control-Shift-R to reload. We'll select this, and Control-Alt-N is the key, the shortcut, and notice how it changed the size here to 200. So that's how you can take existing objects and manipulate some of these properties. Very, very, very simple. So for us, though, that's not what we want to do. The intent is to allow me to select any given text-based property or element here and change it to Montserrat, right? So by default, Adobe XD is always putting me into CGO or CGO. I don't even know how to pronounce that. The UI font here, and I'm always going over here to Montserrat. So we're gonna make it so all I have to do is put in a very quick shortcut, and it'll change it for me automatically. So now make this a little bit larger, and let's turn it into like a serif font so that it really contrasts, once we actually change it. What we can also do is rerun this, and it's also going to give us information about this particular text-based selection. All right, so now let's go back to our code. All right, and what we'll do is we will say, let's see here. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of both of these. All right, so we'll say we're going to put an if statement. If selection.items.length, and this is all basic JavaScript stuff right here, doesn't equal 0, then we'll execute this. So they obviously have to select something first for it to change it into a different font family. All right, so if more than 0 items has been selected, then run the following code. So we'll say selection.items.for each, and then the node is what we pass in to gain access to each of those selected items. And we'll say node.styleRanges equals, and then we put in an array of objects right here. All right, so style ranges, if you look this up in the Adobe XD documentation, it provides you with a number of different properties that you can change based on text style ranges, like the font weight, the font family, for instance. So the font family is one that we're going to change. So we'll say font family, Montserrat. Now, obviously, the user needs to have this installed on the system. I'm not planning to have this reproduced. Obviously, it's something only myself is going to use, so I'm not too worried about that. And that is essentially it. So let's save it. One of the most simple, pathetically simple plugins out there. So Control-Shift-R to reload, and then Control-Alt-N. There we go. It changed right here, right before your eyes. So if I undo that, just watch how it changes. Now let's do multiple. So I'm going to Control-Shift-D that. It could be any font, obviously. So like, there we go. We'll take both of these, and then Control-Alt-N. Awesome. I'll show you another thing real quickly about how you can use those samples to really just integrate more functionality. You know, if your app needs more functionality, just by looking at these samples. So if we go back here, what if you need to show an alert or some type of confirmation or something based on logic that's occurring in the plugin? Well, how to, let's see, display an alert. This is going to show you exactly the code associated with displaying an alert. So very simple. It allows you to show an alert and or an error. But notice it is referencing lib/dialogues.js, and you'll need that as well. So you just go in here. You can copy the code right from here and create that folder inside of your plugin folder. All right, so very, very simple. We'll do that real quick just to show you. I really don't need an alert for this. Unless maybe I forgot to select a text element or something like that. But I just want to do it just to show you, and then we will conclude momentarily. All right, so we'll go back here to the text editor. And remember, we have to create that lib folder. And I already have the stuff saved for those two files. One was called dialogues.js. And I just copied this from GitHub, that example that I just showed you. And then there's also a manifest.js.json file that was there as well, so I just created that. Manifest.js, no, JSON. All right, and then actually it was .js. Let me rename that. That's how it was in that GitHub. We'll save that. Perfect. Don't need to do anything there. Just a library that requires that. So now we'll go ahead and say, I'm only going to use the alert, not the error. So constant alert equals require, and we'll say /lib and dialogues.js. All right. So then we'll create another function down here. We'll say function, and the function will be show alert. It'll take in a message, so we can define a custom message for this based on what's happening. And then we just simply run alert and pass in the message. So up here, after the text has been changed, let's just do a show alert. And we'll say, bro, you got Montserrat. How entirely stupid. All right, and we'll save that. And we'll say else. And this is on the if statement up here. So this means if there was something selected, run this. If not, then we'll show an alert and said that it will say, select a text layer, ya dummy. All right, there you go. So now we'll save this. We'll go back to our Adobe XD, and I'll just take these two. Remember, Control-Shift-R to reload. Control-Alt-N runs our plugin. Bro, you got Montserrat. And then if I try it without selecting one, select a text layer, you dummy. Technically, you would want to use the error version of this. And obviously, the dialogue's probably a lot more, you can do a lot more things with the dialogues as well. So just check out the documentation, and that is it. All right, so hopefully you found that useful. If you did, make sure you subscribe, click the bell notification icon, and answer today's question, which is, which Adobe XD plugin do you use the most? All right, see you guys later. Goodbye.